Activated.
Analyzing.
Update complete.
Hey guys, check the playlist in the top right hand corner to watch the complete series on Operation Return. This is the second video in a complete breakdown from a political, social, and tactical aspect. If you haven't seen it, it's worth watching the first episode and then coming back. Don't worry, I'll wait. As we discussed before, Operation Return, an all-out attack on Deep Space Nine to retake the station and wormhole in an attempt to ensure the Dominion reinforcements could not arrive, and effectively win the war, was rushed when Starfleet had gained intelligence that Dominion forces had found a way to disable the minefield that was within the wormhole itself. This would allow the Dominion to be reinforced, and if these reinforcements were able to arrive, everything would be lost for the Federation. Because of this, Starfleet would have to rush the operation. That meant they would be leaving behind the Ninth Fleet as well as the Klingons. What remained would attack at less than full strength. As the Federation Armada quickly approached the Dominion fleet that would try to stop them, Starfleet's ships would continue to fall back for repairs. At least 11 ships would have to fall back, thinning the lines even more. And when Starfleet arrived, they would be outnumbered 2-1. 627 Starfleet vessels would be pitted against a fleet of 1,254 Dominion ships. Everything was on the side of the Dominion. The Dominion, arguably, still had better technology than Starfleet, and all the Dominion would need to do was hold the line. Starfleet would not only have to attack, but break through the lines at great cost to their forces. And then those damaged ships that actually got through would be expected to assault Deep Space Nine. Some have argued that Starfleet should have broken off into task forces, attacking from different directions. After considering everything at stake and the various outcomes, I think this would have been a mistake. First, it would have been a harder sell for Sisko, as a part of the pitch for Operation Return would be that a large fleet would require a large response, and thus the Dominion could not attack Earth. Various task forces would allow the Dominion to split up its forces and thus have an actual chance of attacking Earth with a moderate to large fleet. Additionally, task forces would be much easier to pick off individually. There was strength in Federation numbers as well as the diversity of ships that they had, so a large fleet would most likely be the best option. Now when you look at Memory Alpha, it will tell you that the battle lasted about 5 hours or so. This is in large part due to the back and forth we see between the fleet battle and Deep Space Nine scenes. We would see a part of the battle, and then we would see a hard cut to Dukat or other characters whom would talk about how much time has passed, going from 8 hours to 6 hours to 4, and so forth. I don't really have any good arguments for why this isn't the case, it just feels a bit off. But again, I can't really justify why Memory Alpha would be wrong, so for the purposes of this breakdown, we'll assume that the timeline is correct. Though, I would argue the battle took upwards of 8 hours if we're going to assume the timelines are 1-to-1. Starfleet forces wouldn't break through until after the fall of the minefield, which would be 8 hours. Back to the battle proper, Captain Benjamin Sisko knew that the Dominion forces before him would be too powerful to punch a hole through with brute strength. They would have to use other tactics if they were going to succeed. He would order Federation fighter wings, Peregrine-class ships, to attack the Cardassian line and attempt to goad the ships into breaking ranks and attacking the fighters. His specific orders would be to focus on Cardassian ships. This in large part due to the Cardassians' lack of military discipline in comparison to the regimented Jem'Hadar, who were specifically bred for battle. For 2 hours, the Peregrine wings would beat on Cardassian ships, with the massive military fleet staying just outside of each other's weapons range. The Cardassians would not take the bait, and Sisko would order more and more Peregrine-class ships to attack. Ultimately, the Cardassian ships would break formation and attack the squadrons. However, Sisko and the crew of the Defiant realized that it was a trap set by Gul Dukat. Dukat ordered the ships to break ranks, bringing up galores so that when Starfleet ships entered into the fray, they could close behind the ships and the Federation fleet would be surrounded. However, Sisko didn't have any other choice. He would order 2 Galaxy-class wings to handle the galores and then order the entirety of the Federation forces to punch a hole through the enemy lines. Any ship that got through was ordered to make immediately for Deep Space Nine. The Federation ships would slam into the Dominion line, and with Starfleet now completely surrounded, the Dominion pulled its ace card. The Dominion would block all communications. This was, to my mind, ingenious. Without the ability to work with each other through comms, Starfleet ships would find themselves completely isolated. If you haven't watched the episode, I would encourage you to go back and take a look. You can see the Starfleet ranks completely disintegrate in the background. Starfleet vessels would be left to fight on their own, either fighting by themselves or grouping into smaller formations to try to push the Dominion back. From what I can tell, Starfleet was completely unprepared for a situation in which they could not communicate with each other. While I wouldn't say that Starfleet officers began to fight in a every man for themselves mentality, you can definitely tell that the battle stopped being one large battle and moved into several smaller fights. It would be late into the battle that communications would be restored and Starfleet begin to regroup. Though if Starfleet had been alone, it probably would have been too late. The saving grace of the battle would be the arrival of the Klingons, attacking from the top down and at an angle that would squeeze the Dominion fleet. The Dominion was caught completely off guard and a large swath of Dominion ships would be destroyed instantly. The Klingon armada would decimate the ships in front of them. But even with Klingon support, the regimented lines of the Dominion would prevent any ship, save for the Defiant, to break through. What occurs after with the Defiant will be covered in future videos, but for now, let's focus on the battle. And about the battle, yeah, we don't really see it again. We do know that the Klingon surprise attack would ultimately allow the Federation to regroup and smash through the Dominion ranks. They would then make for Deep Space Nine, after Deep Space Nine had been saved. So taking a look at the results, I'm going to be kind here. It's said that 200 Allied ships break through the enemy lines. Let's assume that every one of those ships was a Federation ship, even though it's likely a large contingent were Klingon vessels. Now remember the orders. Every ship was to break through the lines and then run. No one stays to fight. So if only 200 vessels makes it through, that means that Starfleet would take losses of upwards of 69%, meaning tens of thousands of officers and hundreds upon hundreds of Starfleet ships destroyed. Now to be fair, 69% was much lower in losses than every other fleet battle that had occurred, which was measured in the 80 to 90 percentile. So things are looking up. Even with that, I think we can all agree that this was a Pyrrhic victory. A Pyrrhic victory is still a Pyrrhic victory nonetheless and would do a lot to improve the morale of the troops. It would also show that Starfleet could defeat the Dominion, that they could win. This would be one of the most vital, if not the most vital, battle of the Dominion War. This conflict would have long-lasting impacts which we will discuss in future episodes. If battles and ships interest you and you would like to see more breakdowns of specific starships, check out the top right where you can get starship lore, including many of the vessels that fought in this battle. Beyond that, what do you guys think about the Sacrifice of Angels battle? Was the loss of ships worth the attack? What do you think about the tactics? Let me know in the comments below. I want to give a shout out to all of my patrons. I will be getting better sound equipment and launching a website soon, and none of that would have happened without them. So if you aren't a patron, you should definitely consider it. Even as low as $1 a month helps me out immensely. Guys, I want to thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next Lore Reloaded.